Alright, Saturday, August the 6th, 2022, and I'm just heading out to the garage. Picked up a new car restoration project a couple of days ago I wanted to share with you. Before I open these doors, any guesses as to what I got? I'm going to say it's older than anything I've got in the fleet currently. The oldest I've got right now is this 59 Triumph TR3A over here, sitting in line for restoration, so it's older than that. What's your guess? Stay tuned. Alright, here we go with the big reveal. Let's crank the doors open. I'll point you over this way. Door number 1. Door number 2. Alright, you ready for the big reveal? There it is. Yeah. There we go. It's a 1950 Murray Champion dip-side pedal car. Pretty cool, eh? Local purchase. Picked it up a few days ago. Let me get it up where you can see it a little bit better, and we'll go through the plans and intentions for it. It's a little smaller than the TR3A, and a little bit smaller than the TR250. Hard to believe. I don't think I'm going to fit in this one. Alright, as mentioned, this model is from around, I'm going to say around 1950. According to the sources on the internet that I've looked at, some say 49 was the first year for this, some say 50 or 51. Regardless of that, it was produced from, let's say, 1950 to 1955. This particular model, the dip side model, as it said, because of this little dip here in it, in the rear fender, was actually modeled after the 1950 Studebaker Champion. And that's why it's called the Champion. Alright, so a little bit of history about the Murray Company. It was founded in 1910 in Detroit, and then moved its headquarters or its manufacturing plant to Cleveland, and then finally ended up in Tennessee. It originally produced car parts and then started making bicycles and pedal cars in the mid-1930s. So pedal cars have been around for quite some time, since the turn of the century. Anyway, there's a fun fact for those of you who watch my channel who have owned or currently own Crosley's. The Murray Company actually made body parts for the Crosley from 1939 to 1942. So as mentioned, Murray started producing pedal cars in the mid-1930s, and they produced different variations of these pedal cars all the way up until 1973. They made a ton of different models and makes of these pedal cars, too numerous to mention here. If you ever get a chance, take a look at Murray pedal cars online, just Google it, and you'll see some of the models that were available during the time period. They made things like fire trucks, station wagons, pace cars. They actually made some boat versions, some trike versions, some tractor version, plane versions. And later in the mid-60s and early 70s, they actually made missile cars based on the rage of the day. Alright, so what are my plans for this pedal car? And again, this is my first foray into doing any sort of restoration on a pedal car. So my thoughts are that I'm definitely not going to try to make this a concourse restoration style, back to factory specs. I'm going to put my own little touch on this. So I'm thinking off the top of my head here that we're probably going to go with a two-tone paint job, probably black and white. Those are my my two favorite colors, or combination of colors. So probably going to do a two-tone black and white. There are some parts missing on this car. In particular, the windscreen or the windshield is missing here that actually would go in these holes here. This is the incorrect steering wheel. It's actually missing the hood emblem, which is actually a plane style, an airplane style chrome piece here, and apparently you can still buy these. They're actually being remanufactured by a pedal car company in the US, so a lot of these parts I can actually buy as reproductions. Of course, they're not going to be as good as what the originals were, but I'm glad that we're able to get reproductions. Things like the tires, for example, I was figuring that might be a little bit difficult to get those, but it looks like this pedal car company, or there's a few pedal car companies that actually offer the rubber tires for these cars still, so we'll be able to get those with no issues. Now we do want to get this car functioning back as a pedal car. You can actually see that the actual pedals here are just being tied up with a piece of string. But you can actually see the original pedals back there. Unfortunately, the rear mechanism or the rear axle and the rear bracket to hold the rear axle is not there. There are just blocks of wood in there temporarily. So we're going to need to find a rear axle or rear cross member for this car to be able to get it back to functioning as it did from the factory. Again, I'm not sure if I mentioned this or not, but this is obviously not the original steering wheel to this car. The original steering wheels are also available in the aftermarket, so we'll be able to get one of those as well. I'm hoping this is the original steering shaft, so if I do get an original steering wheel, it'll fit right on this shaft. Now, as far as the rear seat area, I'm going to obviously refinish this. There's a few tears in the metal here that I'll have to weld up. I'm not sure if there was actually a factory cushion here. I guess it depends on the options that you ordered with this car when you purchase it from the factory. So we'll have to see if we can actually, I know you can buy the actual pad. Whether this car actually came with it or not, that's another question. So this car is definitely going to use some of my body working skills to get back into shape. There's quite a few dents all the way around. You can see it's been well used over the years. So quite a bit of dents, some tears in the metal here, a little dent here. And as you can probably see from the front, quite a few dents here in the front where it's probably been rammed into a wall a few times. Not sure if these holes are supposed to be here or not, but we'll have to figure that out. Somebody's painted the headlights blue. Actually, I think that's the original color coming through. Obviously, we're going to make the grille and the headlights silver as they should be. And as mentioned, we'll get the correct hood emblem here and the correct windscreen for it. So there's a quick overview of the project. Again, this is going to be something that we just do on the side, probably on a cold winter night, and just a fun little project to do. And we'll start collecting parts for it over the next little while. And once we have all the parts to get this thing restored, we'll go ahead and do so. So we definitely don't want to waste time on it now during the summer, during the driving season, but it'll be a good winter project. Once we start working on the other cars, the other full-size cars, we can have the body work tools out at that particular point in time, and we can do a little bit of work on this car as well as the full-size cars. All right, just wanted to give you a quick shot of the bottom before we go. As mentioned, we're missing the rear axle hanger and bearings, and you can see that these are just pretty much on there temporarily, just holding the car up. The front looks pretty complete actually, and we do actually have the bars that run to the rear axle. So there's the cute little pedals. So anyway, that looks pretty good. Obviously missing some tires up in the front. There's what the original tires look like, I believe. So I'll be able to know what to order that fits on these rims. Anyway, like I said, should be a good fun project for those cold winter months. So stay tuned for future updates on the 1950 Champion dip side.